welcome back to the latest episode of the Master of None podcast. I am your host, as always, Stephen, joined by the usual rugby crew of Westy and Sam. First week of Six Nations is over, and as always, plenty to talk about, especially when it comes to Ireland. But sorry, Westy, how are you, bud?
Yeah, pretty good. Enjoying lockdown. Great to have sport back on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sam, how about you?
Yeah, good win for the boys in green over in Wales at the weekend. Connacht on Friday, I'm talking about. So
yeah.
Oh, was another game on? I didn't see any other game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we can touch on the Connacht game if you want, but it was pretty much your typical Connacht performance, which was extremely frustrating. Lots of good, lots of bad, but got the win all the same. But yeah, we'll talk about that maybe at a different time. I think people are tuning in this week to talk about the Irish international team when they
tuned
lost. People have turned on the telly box, and we're on the telly box. We will, well, you can be actually, because on YouTube you can put on your telly, Westy. So why don't you shut your mouth? How about that?
Okay, I'll just sit here quietly for the next 40 minutes.
Yeah, just don't speak. Wales coming out on top of Ireland, 21-16. It was a really strange game. There was several times where I thought we were going to win, and then several times where I thought we were going to lose. And it was just really hard to sort of pick through the game. And obviously the big talking point, unfortunately, is Billy Burns, and we'll get to that as well. But the O'Mahony incident, I suppose we'll get to that first. Westy, I think everyone's agreed, and I'm the biggest O'Mahony fan in the world, but that was a red card.
Yeah, it is a red card, and it's unfortunate because I've said this one to people since, and I think a lot of us are the same. O'Mahony commits too early, right? And he doesn't put his arm out to wrap. He puts the arm out to wrap, that's going to be a yellow card. But I think he sees Tipuric. He sees is it Wyn Jones? I think is the prop going down, and he thinks Wyn Jones will be down, and he'll have to hit Tipuric. So he just comes from a bit too far back, puts his head down too early, and then doesn't put the arm out. You know, again, if Wyn Jones had ducked and he hit Tipuric, might have been a penalty for not wrapping in the clear. But it was just I think they said it in the comms. They were told to go out and put out a physical mark against Wales. Peter O'Mahony was getting a bit overzealous. I think it's really, really confusing now that Peter O'Mahony's gone from this like quiet workhorse to like this Fijian bulldog who's throwing offloads and getting red cards. You know, it's
I love
quite a renaissance.
Love it. But like this, and Sam, we'll get to your opinion in a second. But I was having a discussion with someone else. They were giving out about O'Mahony, and I was kind of saying like this is O'Mahony. I think sometimes sets the tone for Ireland physically. Like that's the kind of player he is, and he is that sort of lives on the line player. So this is unfortunately going to happen occasionally, and we have seen it happen with Munster before. But like, can we put up with that? Because we also see the great stuff that O'Mahony does. That sometimes no more than Papali'i with Connacht, you're going to get the odd, red card.
yeah, I think it's a different situation with Peter O'Mahony in Ireland than is Papali'i and Connacht. Papali'i and Connacht is overzealous and new. O'Mahony is at the moment like that player that you need to be turning around to and looking to as a leader and someone that needs to be kind of leading from the front, and obviously bringing a bit of physicality into the game is something that's very, very important, and something that he has done in the past and something that we've all praised him for doing. So you can't get it wrong, but I think he does need to, now being one of the senior pros in the team and someone whose position is definitely not cemented in the team either, he has to have a bit more smarts about him. And it was so reckless and so rash, and something that a couple of years ago, you're getting away with those sort of clear outs, but refs are pinging them so much recently because of the kind of the emphasis on protecting the head and stuff, that I think there's no longer a 50-50, I'm going to fly in like an absolute torpedo and clear out this ruck. Like that, you only do that if you're 100% sure that you're going to be able to clear it out safely. And he wasn't at the time. Could have just as easily hit the back of his own man, not made any contact, and would have just been looked at as being a silly, reckless clear out that didn't do anything. But it was unfortunate he made contact with the head. I think he just needs to be a bit smarter in the future. There's people, obviously it's an overreaction and it's a snap judgment, but people are questioning now whether or not he gets back into an Ireland team. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility that this will hamper his chances of getting back into an Ireland team, because there's plenty of very, very experienced back rows or plenty of very, very good back rows that need experience. And, his place might now be in jeopardy. Not any fault of his ability, but just making a raster season like that when you need him as a leader on the pitch, especially you need him helping James Ryan through, because James Ryan is still young, and there's a lot of emphasis going on the future of his career. I think something he himself will know what he's done wrong, but he'll be very disappointed in himself. I don't think it's part of his game that he should continue with. I think he needs to reinvent that side of things. Like, I know he brings physicality, but bring it in other ways.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like, it was the weekend of overreactions online when it comes to Irish teams. I've seen a lot of that. O'Mahony should never play again and all this sort of stuff, which, personally, fuck off is what I would say to those people. I'm a big O'Mahony fan, but I get it. It's a heated place, and there is a lot of competition there for those places, and he'll be banned for the rest of the Six Nations, I assume.
O'Mahony,
6 weeks is the entry point, I think, for something like that.
Regardless of picking him, he won't be available for the next 2 or 3 games anyway, so that's going to hamper his selection going forward. If we find form without him, just gives him an uphill battle to get back in. Sorry, Sam, I interrupted you.
Well, he's got previous. He was against Scarlets earlier on in the season. He got banned for something very similar, so he's not going to get that first-time offenders 5 weeks cut to 2 sort of thing. It'll be a full whatever he gets. He'll get the majority of it. He might get a week off, but as well as that, like, I don't agree with the idea that he should never play with an Ireland team in an Ireland jersey again. Like, he's the man who's reinvented himself more times. Like, I've written him off about 5 times in his career, and he just keeps coming back and keeps getting better. So you'd love for that to happen and that to be there. Like, he's not long since he was a Lions captain, and he's been Ireland captain many times. He's Munster captain a good few times as well. But it's the depth and quality of depth that there is in the back row in the Ireland squad and in the wider squad. There's plenty of very, very good players that feel like they should have been called up that there was no room for them. That is going to be really hard. And like Westy said just there, if you get a Doris back from this head injury, or Connors or something steps up and makes his game, like, it's going to be very hard to put O'Mahony back in and not be questioned.
You have Rhys Ruddock there, would be pretty much a direct swap, which would be, he's been in incredible form. So, it is tough.
Physicality, like, if they have O'Mahony in to lead by bringing in that physicality, Ruddock will do that. And Ruddock, I don't see Ruddock doing the same sort of thing, because Ruddock to me is kind of slightly calmer in his demeanor than O'Mahony is. He's very strong, and he kind of uses his strength, whereas I think O'Mahony is very strong, but he also brings strength through, like, aggression and physicality, whereas I think Ruddock, to me, is quite a calm strength. He's just like your workhorse and sort of strength.
I think he's great. Yeah, he's great hands as well, link up play. So I hope that Ruddock does come in. But Westy, we've seen after that, after the sending off, Ireland started to actually really put some nice phases together. They started to dominate that game, and they did dominate the last 25 minutes of that first half, and went into the break kind of winning. What did you see that you liked from the Irish attack, even down to 14 men?
Well, just as you said, I mean, first off, the fact that they kind of galvanized together, and it certainly didn't happen instantly, because there was a point there where I can't remember exactly what had happened. I think we were turned over on the Welsh 22 or something, and all the Welsh heads are up and all the Irish heads are down, and that was kind of, I think it was just after they got that second penalty, and it was kind of like, oh God, this could go badly now. But I think the manner in which they recovered, the manner in which we recomposed ourselves, certain players, especially younger players, kind of standing up and making themselves counted. I thought, like, Tadhg Beirne took the opportunity with both hands. Like, I mean, I was amazed that the Welsh commentators didn't give him man of the match. He was everywhere. Like Hugo Keenan and Robbie Henshaw, just finding these great lines and this great positioning that, like, I didn't see, that it was really tough for anybody in those situations to see. So I think the reaction of maybe some of the newer, or some of the less experienced, or I don't want to say like Robbie Henshaw less experienced, but less consistently proven players putting their hands up and saying, like, let's say the next generation of Ireland team putting their hand up and saying, we can still do this. That self-belief, I thought, was really, really impressive.
Yeah, Sam, what did you like?
I thought after the sending off and then going to, like, I said, 6 down at one stage, I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be a very, very tough battle. But I think that they managed the game really well. I think that they managed being down to 14 for, 65 odd minutes, really, really smartly. And they played a game that, it might not necessarily have been the best looking game, but it did what it needed to do. I think that they were very deep on purpose. I was complaining about it when I was watching it, and then when I watched it back this morning, I was like, you know what, they were deep on purpose, because they're almost kind of not giving any sort of 50-50 pass away. They were trying to keep hold of the ball and maybe not push it and then try and snatch and grab it, which, you know, they almost did, really. I was impressed by, like Westy said, Keenan, I thought was just outstanding. I thought Ty Byrne was brilliant. I thought the front row was really, really good. I thought going down to 7 against 8 and the scrums didn't look like they faltered at all. You know, and big ups to the new forwards coach. Something's happened there, but, you know, a couple of good lineouts, and I thought that everything was kind of good overall. I thought there was one or two not disappointing performances, because you're down to 14. So I don't think you can really judge anyone's performances when you're down to 14, because everyone has twice as many jobs to do when that happens. But I just thought Keith Earls was a bit quiet. I thought once we went down to 14 and we needed something a bit smarter, I don't think he was there. One or two small mistakes. I thought James Lowe looked really good, but also kind of was caught out once or twice. But, you know, the option of the boot kept him in for a good while, and that helped us a couple of times. And then I thought that Henshaw was just outstanding. I thought, like, Ringrose was very good, but I thought Henshaw has, the last couple of months, he's been back to his best. He's definitely looking a lot leaner, and it's brilliant to see. Like, you know, as Connacht fans, we want Bundy to start, and, you know, possibly like a Bundy Henshaw, but like any one of Bundy, Robbie and Gary in there, like with them all fit, you've such good options there, even one off the bench or anything like, or, you know, in a case like that, you could, if Earls, you're playing with 14 and you need a bit smart, you need more of like a third centre as opposed to a winger, you could move Ringrose out and have Bundy, Henshaw and Gary Ringrose, and you might get slightly more in terms of link up play. You might get less in terms of the finishing, but yeah, no, I was really, really impressed with the whole thing. They were fighting until 83 minutes. They nearly got a chance to grab it at the end. And, you know, you're playing an international team like Wales for 65 minutes with 14 men, and, you know, you probably deserve to win, really. Like, you were probably the better team overall. I think that's so impressive, and I'm happy out. You know, I'm glad that people are talking about the potential that was there and not like blaming the red card on Farrell somehow, like, and, you know, calling for his head, because I think the performance was good, and it's just unfortunate it was with 14.
Yeah, I think it is tough to really analyze a lot of the attacking play because they were down to 14, so we didn't really get to see the full potential of what they would have possibly tried. I think the one thing we can criticize was the silly penalties that we gave away. We gave away, I think, out of the total amount of penalties, but like 2 of them was, you know, there's that crossing penalty earlier on. That's easily eradicated. There was Keith Earls took someone out in the air, which is very unlike him to make that kind of mistake. We saw 2 high tackles. These are kind of mistakes that that's not because we have 14 men. That's just silly. Look, maybe it's the first game in Six Nations, a little bit of rustiness, possibly, but that sort of stuff is keeping Wales in the game. Because let's be honest here, lads, Wales were fairly crap. Like, Wales didn't look like creating anything for that first 60 minutes against 14 men of Ireland. They never looked threatening. And I know they come out and they won the game. We're down to 14 men, but I think it's hard to tell. Like, we'll know against France next week what really Ireland are capable of. But that Wales game could either be we think we're better than we are now and France are going to hockey us, or Wales are better than we think they are. And, you know, we actually, you know, it was a good performance, don't get me wrong, but Wales really didn't look great. Like, Wesley, am I being harsh on Wales, or they did look pretty poor?
I think you've been a little bit harsh. I think you would expect, and Wales were disappointed, and everyone said that they didn't kick on and take advantage of the extra man. But I actually think a lot of their interplay, even in the first 10 minutes, before that first penalty even, like, a lot of their passing, their speed of, like, they're moving the ball so quick and so efficiently. They're pushing on. And a lot of times maybe it's the last pass that wasn't coming off. I was really impressed with how quickly they were able to move the ball and their off-field skills and their line speed and defense as well. I thought was very good. That they didn't really seem to push on with that once we were down to 14. I think they kind of thought, okay, we don't need to bust a gut here now. We can maybe take it a bit easier and wait for our opportunity to come, because there will be a gap, which is really impressive, the fact that there really wasn't that many gaps from the Ireland defence. But no, I think overall maybe you're right, but I do think there were times in the game where Wales looked very dangerous in possession.
Yeah, I think it was probably, to me, it looked more like a bit of complacency. You're looking at 65 minutes against 14, thinking, okay, don't veer away from the game plan. Now that we're playing against 14, it'll happen for us at some point, you know. And Ireland dug in and revitalized themselves with a couple of the substitutions, which I thought worked. You know, on the majority, I thought a lot of substitutions were very positive for Ireland. I think that Welsh complacency, they never kicked on because they thought that it would just come eventually. You're playing against a team that's just going to tire and tire and tire. And Ireland just managed to not tire and didn't allow them to kick on. more so that they, I think that they were probably trying to be smart and to not veer away from the game plan, because you know what sometimes happens, like it happens to Connacht regularly. You're playing against 14 and you start trying to throw stupid stuff around and trying to really take advantage of it, and it ends up backfiring and you concede against the Ospreys. And I'm
not over that one yet, are you, Sam?
Yeah, look, that's fair enough. I think just from what I've seen of Wales, I didn't see a lot that I was like, oh wow, they're threatening us here. You know what I mean? Even down to 14 men. But look, we'll see next week. But what I did like from Ireland was I seen a couple of stats. We were the quickest at getting the ball away from a ruck out of all the teams that played. So that shows a bit of intent. I've seen a few times, and we've seen it with the try that we scored. A lot of offloading, either attempts or at least when the player was going down, look to see if anyone was there. So at least again the intent is there that if someone is there, I'm going to pop it. And Van der Fleer on a lovely support line. Off Henshaw, I saw a lot of that, which I did like. I'm still seeing a lot of forwards taking the ball, standing still, and just kind of crash balling it. And look, that's obviously a part of the game plan, but can we just at least get them running onto it a little bit more? Would that not be a bit better? Am I going insane?
No, I think I agree with you. And I was getting frustrated about players being isolated. There was a lot of forwards taking it on their own, hitting the ground, and then we were like, scrambling to get into the ruck. Whereas, for me, a successful kind of pod system, and like Westy, you'll know far better than I will, like being a forward. But for me, a successful pod system, you're working in tandem with people, and someone's taking it and he's hitting the ground as there's two players driving over him. Almost quite like what Peter O'Mahony was trying to do, which is to go fly over the lad before he's even hit the ground. But Ireland have been doing it for a while now, a couple of years, where they're getting isolated and they're taking it standing still. It's like one person. It's almost like resetting, but they're doing it far too much for it to be resetting. And it confuses me, because to me, going around the corner and keeping going, taking things at pace is very basic for a forward.
Yeah, Westy, as an AIL forward, would you like to comment?
Yeah, well, look, it should never be a case of, that's down to poor decision. It could be fatigue, right? Because that's maybe the pod not getting around. You have a lot of work to do. Maybe the 9, again, I'm not blaming Murray specific, I just mean in general, trying to reduce the amount of work they have to do by popping to the man who's there waiting to take the ball standing. That should really be a judgment call, where if you see a man standing, your back line should be set behind him, regardless of what the call is. If you're having pods of forwards carrying up and hitting up the ball, your back line should be set, at least there as a fake option, if not even a real option. So it's probably better decision making in those instances where if the support players aren't there, we shouldn't be popping to one man who's standing still.
Yeah, it seems to be a thing with Irish play for the last year or two, and especially like Stander is like a bowling ball of a man, but he takes the ball standing still and he negate all of. You seen him that one time he did get a bit of a run up. He absolutely murdered Toby Faletau.
Yeah.
He put him on his hole. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. Why not do that more with, say, Tadhg Beirne, who was brilliant, and the stats with Tadhg Beirne is insane. Like, every main category, he's top 3 in everything. It was just mental. It was great to see him continue that form and finally into an Irish green jersey.
And I hope they keep him there in the second row as well, because that shows you how good he is when he's in the thick of everything, when he's so involved.
I was having this argument on Twitter with someone. They were like, "Oh, they should bring Beirne into 6 now. O'Mahony's not available." I'm like, "You have Rhys Ruddock, who is a 6. Why would you move Beirne down from 4?" It just frustrates me so much. But we have to talk about obviously the ending of the game, which is unfortunate because it's not fun to talk about. But Billy Burns comes on. He comes on originally as centre, wasn't it? Because
for
Henshaw. And then Sexton said a 10. Sexton, by the way, had a very average game. A few nice kicks, but a few bad ones too. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that Ireland were still 5 points down when Burns came on. They were actually 8 points down when Burns came on the pitch. So it wasn't as if we were, strolling away with this game. But Sexton was average. If you think the Sexton had a good game, you're lying to yourself. He had
a good game from the team, but that's about it. His kicking in play wasn't great, and his decision making and distribution, I don't think, was over. Now we had to play more conservative, so we had less men, but I don't think it was anything that impressive.
We had to play less conservative. But Westy, we dominated that game from the 20th minute until the 50th minute. Like, we were all over Wales. There was no. Well,
not the 50th minute. No, I mean they scored 2 tries instantly.
Sorry, the 20 minutes, whatever, the half time. But like, we dominated the Wales for that period of play.
What was really interesting there, Wesley, you said like kicking in play. I thought the kicking in play was an odd tactic. Like, I know we've been giving out about box kicks the whole of the country has been giving out about box kicks for a while, and there was a few box kicks and they were contestable. And Sexton put up a lot of up and under style kicks, which I just think are kind of almost outdated at this stage. They're very readable, and you're playing with the 14 men. Like, he's putting them up. Wales are taking it. We're getting the ball back, and obviously our possession, we had 61% possession, so we were getting the ball back. But I just thought, like, the one or two times when Lowe hit it with, like, no pun intended, low trajectory and long and turned them, it was such a more beneficial, I think, tactic. You really turn them, and when you're playing with 14 against 15, you want to be pulling them out of position like that. And I didn't see the point in those kind of up and unders that he's doing, and he's getting about 10 minutes of wind up time, and it's so obvious. And we weren't contesting in the air, like, and I don't know. I thought it was bad. That side of the game was bad tactical. I don't know if that's coming from the top or if that's something he wants to do, but I think that it's getting, like, you don't want to be the broken record talking about up and unders and box kicks, but that they are genuinely just frustrating to watch, because I'm not sure what they're giving us anymore. It's not like we have Rob Kearney pulling them out of the sky.
I think, look, I agree, they're not fun to watch, but look, every team's doing them now, so it's obviously like.
Well, if you watch the Scotland game, like, Hogg turned the defense. He gets the ball and he's in space. He's in the back, and where Ireland put an up and under up and try and contest with it, Hogg is booting it low trajectory with a spiral in behind or in between and bouncing it and putting it around. And sometimes they went dead for like a 22 dropout, and sometimes they went into touch for a 5 meter lineout. But he was turning people, and Jack Carty's done it for Connacht recently, and Burns has done it for Ulster recently, and Cooney does it for Ulster. Low trajectory ones that turn that defense or force the fullback and the wings to drop deeper and deeper and deeper, I think are more beneficial at the moment, because everyone has a tactic for dealing with a high ball now. It's like, it's not 5 years ago. It's not, you're not pulling Conor Murray, sticking it in the air for 25 seconds and letting Rob Kearney catch it. It's understood, and people know what to do now.
Yeah, look, that's fair enough. That's a fair point. But I think what Ireland's kicks lacked sometimes was they were too deep then, so that no one could go and contest them. The Keenans and the Earls couldn't actually get to them, and that's a mistake. So if you're going to actually put them up as contestables, whatever.
Well, is it too deep, or is it that Wales have the same plan that everyone else does, and you cut off your lanes and you make it harder for that person to get to? So they're becoming uncontestable because Wales are literally closing off lanes, and you have to run the long way there.
Yeah, but you could see the Welsh players kind of almost lining up in front of their intended receiver, like, and they're essentially blocking the chaser from getting to the ball in a legal way. Like, it's an annoying tactic to have, but as Sam said, like, it's universally used now. Yeah, except for Ireland, we don't seem to do it.
It's we're like, go on ahead, go chase.
Try your best there. Rob Kearney will get it. Oh, it's not Rob Kearney. Oh, right.
Yeah. He's actually making his debut this weekend, I believe. Alongside former Connacht player that I can't think of the name of, Kyle Godwin. Kyle Godwin is also playing.
They have a great new coach involved in the Western Force. A young John McKee used to coach Fiji.
And any relation to yours, Westy?
Yeah, distant relation now. Do you know, his wife may be my dad's sister, but that's a story for a different day.
So, get us some gear, man. Jesus.
I gotta get the gear myself.
Yeah. But Burns comes on anyway, and eventually Sexton goes off with a bit of a nasty knock on the head, in fairness. But as always, he handles it with grace, comes off without any, pageantry. Of course, he threw a hissy fit. But Burns comes on, and I have to say, and Gibson Park come on for Murray. And I think we've had a bit of discussion in this in the WhatsApp. I think there's a bit of contrasting reviews. I have to say, I absolutely loved it when they come on. The pace that Gibson Park in particular injects, and Burns with the zippier passes, I think it's just way more. It just looks more dangerous. Now, whether it actually is or not, that's a different point. But at that point of the game, it was great to have a bit of, injection of pace, and we looked really like we could create something. And Westy, I know you made a good point. There was a lot of passes from Burns that were sloppy, but where we're just chasing the game and trying to force things, or they were just general, sloppiness. Again, I think that can be worked on. But Wes, do you agree that the pace of the game totally changed when them two boys come on?
It did. We were clearly, as you say, like, Gibson Park was very, very fast at getting the ball out. I thought Burns, his decision making was very quick, but one pass in particular went between two players and we lost 10 or 15 meters or 20 meters even. There was one other poor decision to kick deep. There was the obvious decision at the end. But to me, it's not like he's such an easy target now to say, Burns made the wrong decision here, made the wrong decision there. Man has 2 or 3 caps for Ireland. Like, the problem isn't that Burns came on and wasn't good enough. The problem is Burns doesn't have enough experience. And I don't think any other, even my hero, Jack Carthy, I don't think he would have been a lot better, because these 10s aren't getting enough game time. They're not getting to experience big moments, big decisions in games. Like, even our most capped, let's say, second string in brackets, other fly half is Ross Byrne, who, 20 of his 25 caps are the last 5 minutes of games. Like, you can't expect these lads, these young lads with a few caps, to come on in clutch moments and be perfect. And first, and anyone who says we would have won if that had gone to touch, we had a line out to win. We hadn't won all of our own line outs. We hadn't barreled over the line yet. Like, there was a lot more to do after that.
Wesley, don't bring logic and reasoning to this argument, okay?
But the point I'm trying to make, and it's a point I've made on Twitter, like, kind of since the game, is that now is the time that we have to look and say, it's not about Johnny Sexton not being good enough. He still is good enough. We have to prepare for the time when he's not good enough. So while we have him, why are we not using him better? Why are we not starting a different 10 and having Sexton on the bench? If they get injured, or if push comes to shove and we need a big moments player to come on for the last half an hour, we have Johnny Sexton to come on. Like, it's a mismanagement of resources at the minute, and it leads to a player feeding a player to the wolves. Like, I think Billy Burns has been fed to the wolves now.
Ireland deserve this, and I mean that genuinely. We have created this problem ourselves, and now we are seeing the problem has arrived. Here it is. We've played Sexton so much into the ground that we've no one else because we haven't played them. Didn't O'Gara at the end of, when Sexton took over, O'Gara would come on at the end of games and finish them out. And like, he would sometimes come on and be the hero, which is great for O'Gara as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's at the end of his career. It's just absolutely madness. But Sam, what's your take on the Billy Burns incident?
Yeah, no, it's a really unfortunate thing, really unfortunate moment for a young, inexperienced out half who is very, very good. Like, the kind of weird Twitter outrage. It's more of a Six Nations-y sort of thing. Like, I've been talking to people that don't watch rugby very often, giving out about it, being like, he's a professional sports star and he should be doing better. I was going, yeah, but you have to look at it in context. Like what Wesley's saying, the poor chap has less than 5 caps, and none of our backups really have any experience in a clutch moment, because we have this weird kind of chicken and egg argument about whether or not Sexton's the only good enough one, or whether or not these players are inexperienced in this. Like, I think now is a time when Billy Burns, someone has put their hand around the shoulder and give him the opportunity again, because we talk about getting experience. Making a mistake is an experience, and Billy Burns is going to learn from that experience. I don't agree with bombing him out because of that one incident that happened, and bringing in Harry Byrne and then blowing our nut when Harry Byrne misses a winning penalty from straight in front of the post in 2 weeks' time. Like, it's the same thing. He's a young lad and he's going to make mistakes as well. So I think that Burns deserves the Irish fans and the Irish management and the team to bring him along with this and to get past the one mistake, because I thought he was good when he came on. I think some of the passing was a little bit off, but that's to be expected with nerves in the position you're in, trying to manage a team, run a team when you have 14 men. There's going to be a few mistakes, but I thought himself and Gibson Park added a whole new pace to the game when they came on. I was really impressed with Keller, Kilcoyne, Furlong as well. I think that the subs were smart. I thought Henderson was class when he came on. So, Billy Burns, there's the one moment and it will be talked about, and that's fair enough, but he'll learn from that and he'll develop into a better player. He's still a young out half. This talk of parachuting in Harry Byrne, the third choice out half at Leinster, who's the 2 above him. If one, logistically, what are you going to do when you have no out halves left at Leinster in the league in 2 weeks' time if they're all at Irish camp? It just makes no sense. But I think that it's an easy target for people that wanted it. I thought there was some very classless tweets from ex-pros, really digging the knife in straight after it, implying that it was somehow his fault when it wasn't at all. Like, the young lad, he'll learn from that and he'll develop and grow into it and stuff. And now is the time to get the experience for these people, because that happens in a World Cup in a few years' time. If Sexton's still the starting out half and he gets injured and you have to bring in someone with 5 caps for a quarter final, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it is. And yeah, you're right. And O'Driscoll tweeted after the game, speed dial to Harry Byrne. And it's like, a man in his position shouldn't be doing that. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be tweeted out loads. It's going to be retweeted loads. He knows what he's doing.
Players, ex-pros, people close to teams are very, very aware of the influence they have. They don't have to name names to know what like to know what's being implied. And I think that was quite classless. And I think he took it back by tweeting something an hour later, kind of being like, "Oh, Billy Burns will learn from this mistake and stuff." But he did what he did, and he knows what he done, and he's very calculated. It's a calculated decision to tweet that, and I don't think that that's fair on Billy Burns. Like, it's, the chap has too little experience, because we have a situation, we've got 10 years of Johnny Sexton getting all of the experience and all of the opportunities, and then players are scapegoated, much like Carty was scapegoated for the Japan game in the World Cup, even though it was nothing to do with him. Like, it's beyond.
I think we should, as a country, put Harry Byrne in against France and let's see what happens.
I heard someone going on earlier on the radio talking about, we need to bring in Harry Byrne and persevere with him and get, like, he'll make mistakes because he's young, and like Ntamack made mistakes and they persevered with him. I was like, there's a young out half that made a mistake that you're talking about dropping. Persevere with that one. Like, it's so illogical.
It is so frustrating to watch. It really is. But that's what would happen as well. It would be, let's see what O'Driscoll tweets out after Harry Byrne does something stupid against France. He wouldn't do it. So it's just bullshit.
Get Ross on the blower. Put him in.
Yeah, Ross. Yeah, it is just
strange.
Jack. We've spoken enough about the Irish game. We're already half an hour in. We've only spoken about the Irish game, but looking forward to the France game. I personally, I don't think. We'll talk about the France. We'll talk about France-Italy game first. Italy-France game. Sorry, it was in Rome. Westy, you don't have to say your soundbite because Italy were never in this game at all. So,
I'm so upset I can't say it. I'm really upset.
I know. I bought a soundboard and everything.
I really hoped the time I didn't say it, it'd be because Italy had won. But
no.
Yeah, France were there playing rugby, and Italy were down at the Coliseum having a bit of a chat. Like, they weren't there at all. No, that's very Irish.
Yeah, it was. France are just different class, and that's France missing some serious starting players, and they still looked incredible. Like Dupont is just the best player in the world right now.
I think that speaks to the French systems that they have in play. Like, we kind of saw a taste of this in the All Nations Cup final against England, where they had, a lot of people said it was like a third string team that went out, and they still played this amazing rugby that they you wouldn't have even, if you didn't know any of the players' names, you wouldn't really have seen much difference. And I think that was similar today, or at the weekend. They're missing a couple of lads, missing like someone like Ramos, who I rate really highly, and Ntamack, couple of other changes around the pitch. But like, did anybody look like Vakatawa was not there? Like, did anybody look out of place? Like, Teddy Toma is like in unbelievable form. Like, I don't know where this has come from.
Just
and of course, we were worried about Jalibert at 10. Like, as cool a customer as you'll find. You can't praise them high enough. Now, I know people are going to asterisk and say it was against Italy. It was against an Italy team that were actually doing some good stuff. I mean, I really think Garabisi, I thought, Varney, the scrum half, I thought that their halfback pairing was brilliant. Your man, Aoni, the Australian lad on the wing, great. Like, there was some great aspects to their game. But anytime they did something good, France just flexed on them and just really put them down.
Yeah, they are. They are insane. Like, they are the way. But even like Italy, as you said, played some stuff. Some of the stuff Italy do, I would love if Ireland tried it. The way they attack is like, they do threaten, and they will score tries against some other teams in this competition, and they will threaten to win a few games, probably for 60 minutes, Westy, and you will be able to say your soundbite. But France are just in a vein of form at the moment where it is sort of like, it doesn't matter who we have available, the system that we have in place and the caliber of players that we have, we're just going to do what we normally do no matter who's playing. Sam, what did you think about France and Italy?
Yeah, France were just beautiful to watch. I think they're really reaping the rewards of persevering with young lads making mistakes for a couple of years, and like allowing them to grow into themselves and learn from these mistakes. And they went through a couple of, like, a good number, probably 10 years of people laughing at them and being like, what's going on? And their top division was kind of full of like South Islanders, and French players weren't developing, but they got their stuff together and they're really reaping the rewards of it. I thought that French display was absolutely brilliant. You have to caveat it with the fact that they were playing against Italy. I thought the only, like, I'm kind of in a bit of disagreement. I thought Italy were nice to watch, but that was about it. I don't think they looked threatening. I thought they looked like they were exciting, and they were, keeping the ball alive and trying a few bits, but actually going nowhere. But they just, because if you're destroyed and you don't try anything, people go, oh, they were destroyed because they were crap. But I think they were destroyed, but people are going, yeah, but they were really trying, and they looked a little bit exciting. It was a bit broken and stuff. And I think that was kind of that's papering over a few cracks. I don't think that they really threatened at all. I think France, when they wanted to, just decided to kick on a notch and go for them. I thought, like Westy said, Yamani, the 11, he was brilliant because he really did actually run and make yards and hard yards and stuff. And the 9-10 pair, and they're very young, they'll come good. But other than that, I think that Italy were kind of same old. I don't think they were actually that good. I think that they just looked a bit more exciting than being crap. You've seen them be rolled over and not try anything. This time they were rolled over, they were trying a few bits, but really just going side to side and doing a few fancy little handoffs, and that was about it.
It's a weakened Italy team as well. They're missing the likes of Jake Pledry. They're missing Bram Stain. Like, they did have to kind of reassess how they played. They do kind of rely heavily on, even back in the day, like Parisa, they relied heavily on their back rows who were, very skillful ball carriers and good breakdown kind of merchants. But I think they had to, as Sam said, they had to try other things because those options weren't there this week.
Yeah, I look at the Italy-Georgia debate will always be there, but it isn't good when Italy, it was that ridiculous amount, like 20-something, 23, 24 games losing streak on the bench.
Well, now, hold on now. Don't be talking about Georgia, because you didn't watch the Georgia-Russia game where I had to watch 40 minutes of neither team scoring any points.
Yeah,
so,
sorry. I had painted and it was drying and I just couldn't take my eyes off the paint. So I do apologize.
It's not something like we've talked about it before. It's not an Italy-Georgia debate in my mind. And it's getting past that, because Georgia will come in and it'll be the same thing. And it'll be, why aren't Italy in, or why aren't, the next one's in? It should just be a conversation about the entire tier 2 system and how absolutely shafted it is by ring fencing, because it happens to be Georgia at the top now. But, in past years, in past generations, it's been Romania, it's been Russia. Like, I think bringing up that entire tier 2 system by introducing something to incentivize them, be that, an invitation to a November series, or be it relegation promotion, or something that allows these teams to develop, because it's not just Italy versus Georgia. That just happens to be the worst one and the best one at the moment. But I think that you need to look at the entire thing overall.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We'll move on to the last game then. England versus Scotland at Twickenham, and a fantastic win for Scotland. We said whatever that stat was, 1980 something, whatever it was, Scotland hadn't won since in Twickenham, and they go out and absolutely brilliantly. But we'll talk about England first. I think it's no surprise England's core, which is a lot of Saracens players who haven't been playing top quality opposition or haven't been playing well. They were quite poor. Farrell, Itoje was, pretty good for his standards, wasn't great. Vitipola was pretty crap, which, was great to see because I'm not a Billy fan. But England really looked sluggish, didn't they, Westy?
Yeah, I think a lot of those key men, as you said, that they kind of rely on. Even Maro Itoje, who I thought was brilliant. They talk a lot about, like, he wins the kind of turnovers, and he's a really aggressive presence on the pitch, but he has a tendency to give away a couple of kind of cheap penalties. We saw that kind of magnified maybe because he's just not used to, like, apparently Mark McCall had them playing really intensive internal games in Saracens, but it doesn't compare, especially when you're thinking about how the refs are going to be calling the game this year. You're really not ready for that kind of decision-making process that you'll find. Likes of Jamie George, kind of disappointed. Johnny Hill, I don't think he had a great game, to be honest. Even Tom Curry, who I'm a huge fan of, I was backing him for a massive day. And don't get me wrong, he was good, but there just seemed to be lacking that kind of ruthlessness or cohesiveness that they had last year, where they kind of just threw the ball to Ireland and said, run on us all day, you're not going to score, Yeah.
Well, we saw this is the problem with that tactic, that 10, 20 minutes to go, they were chasing the game and they didn't really have an answer. They were, again, putting up contestable kicks, looking for mistakes from Scotland rather than let's create something ourselves.
It's interesting from Scotland as well. They're kind of, when they're doing their kick returns, they were targeting Johnny May, and I've never seen Johnny May have a game like that. I had him back to score a couple of tries.
It was just a weird day at the office for England. Look, it's nice to see another country that's, all the fans are calling for foreign players to be picked, so it's not just Ireland, so that's a good thing. But it would be unfair to Scotland to talk about how bad England were. Scotland were absolutely fantastic. Like, Stuart Hogg was incredible, Hamish Watson was incredible. Your man Van der Merwe on the wing, he's an absolute baller too. Scotland were incredible, Sam. Like they played this perfectly.
Yeah, I think they played it really, really smart. I liked Eddie Jones's quotes I read earlier, kind of asking what went wrong for England. And he said, well, nothing went wrong. Scotland were unbelievable. And fair play to him, because he said last week, he thought that they wouldn't hack the pressure of the last 20 minutes. And, they did. They ground it out, and they were brilliant to watch. I think it was, Finn Russell was not his best of games. I think that there was the yellow card, and there was also a few kind of just weird moments where he looked a bit almost lazy in play off the ball. But Van der Merwe was he was as good as everyone knew he could be. He was absolutely brilliant, and what a pickup for Scotland. Like, it's such a good sign. I think he's packing in Edinburgh now and moving to is it Warriors or one of the teams, one of the English teams anyway.
The Utah Warriors.
The Utah Warriors. But Hogg was
sign.
Sensational. His kicking, his tactical kicking, like I talked about it earlier, I think that was exactly what you want. He turned the English back three so well. He put it right down in his corner. Sometimes it paid off and went into the 5 channel and got the line out, and sometimes it didn't, and there was drop offs. But they backed themselves with the ball. Redpath, brilliant. Sutherland, just so good. That Scottish forward pack, beating an English forward pack, like, that's regardless of who's in and who's out for England. England are always supposed to be the dominant pack in the Six Nations, and I thought that they were, like, Scotland played them so well. Like, Johnny Gray, so good. Itoje, like, for England, just, he was probably the only Saracens player that looked in any way decent. But if Ali Price knew how to kick the ball within 5 seconds of picking it up, Itoje probably wouldn't have looked that good. It was about 3 charge downs the first 5 minutes. Ali Price was picking it up, having a look around, and then trying to kick it, and Itoje was getting on them.
Just pass it to Finn Russell and let him kick it away. Like, what? Like, it's just so stubborn by Ali Price.
I don't think Itoje was that good. Vinipola was useless. Farrell, I think, was off his game. I think England were missing something in the centre there. I thought that, like, Slade.
Yeah, George Ford.
Or like Tuilagi or something like it. I just think that they were not good, and it didn't happen for England, and it did happen for Scotland. It's not that England lost it because they were weak. Scotland won it because they were good, and it was a great result. And I'm really happy that I was wrong last week and said that England would wipe the floor with them. I'll hold my hands up and say that's the happiest I've been to be wrong. Like,
I got the Wales prediction right, by the way, just to clarify. Sorry, I forgot to put that in my smugness.
You just trying to disagree with us, though.
Well, no, I just thought it was going to be I didn't expect the red card from O'Mahony in the first 15 minutes, so I just thought it was going to be a frustrating day for Ireland, which it sort of turned out to be. But Finn Russell was Finn Russell. We saw some great stuff, and we saw some terrible stuff, and
that's all.
That drop goal at the end was just like, you're sitting there watching it going like, what is that? His call? Is that someone else making that call? Like, Stuart Hogg was there to grab, like, to dive on the ball and save it. But, like, we've seen in the Wales game as well with the kick through, when Wales had a possession. It's like, how are these professional players making such stupid mistakes?
There was
mental.
Bad decision making all around. I don't, like, with Finn Russell, I think, I thought this time it was more bad than good. Usually, like, I'm a huge Finn Russell guy, and usually I'm like, I can accept that there will be mistakes because of the way he plays. But I think with this one, I don't think it was his best game. I think, like, Scotland were so smart and managed that 10 minutes with him in the bin so well that you could actually say, like, stay in the bin, Scotland, we got this. Like, I think Scotland was.
That's what I've been saying, Sam. That's what I've been saying.
I thought they were
better off without him.
The fact that they didn't let England have the ball when they were down to 14 at all, they were just so smart in possession. And then when Finn Russell came back on, a couple of Finn Russell moments, but on the whole, I don't think he was that great. I saw he was put into one of the teams of the tournament, and I think or teams of the week, and I think he was only put in really because they want to get as many Scotland players into it, because fair play, Scotland were the best team of the weekend. But
yeah, it's really intelligent game management from the Scots all around. I think, as you say, Sam, I think they were 60 or 70 odd percent possession and territory. Like, they just held the ball and took the chances when they came up. And it was, as you say, Cameron Redpath was just, anytime he got the ball, he was gaining yards, which was fantastic for a lad in his international debut. I don't care who your dad is. That's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, and what I love about him as well is, like, they offered him to come in for the automations. He was like, I'm not ready. That's great to hear. But we'll move on to the next week. We've obviously 3 games. England, Italy to start off. I think, unfortunately, the Italians may suffer a bit of a backlash here from England. The game is I think it's in Twickenham as well. So
as well,
yeah, that could be rough for the Italians, but you never know. I think the Italians will score a try or two, though. I think they have that firepower, but it's everything else that's going to struggle with. Scotland Wales, boys, that is going to be an absolute cracker of a game. I think now we have on Saturday as well.
Scotland have won the last 4 Six Nations games. I read earlier. I haven't verified this, but I read earlier. They won this, and then did they beat France and Italy at the back of the last Six Nations?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, and they could have bet us last year too as well. I'd be back in Scotland. That game's in Murrayfield. Lads, how sad is it? There's going to be no crowd for the Flower of Scotland at Murrayfield.
Yeah,
that's going to be heartbreaking. But I'm back in Scotland here again. I don't think Wales are good. I think that they made us look better than we are. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. What do you think, Westie? Scotland, Wales?
I think it will be Scotland. I think, like, you know, we brushed over Wales a bit earlier. Like, I think there was great performances. I think Tipuric and Alan Wynne-Jones, like, I don't know how you don't pick Alan Wynne-Jones on a Lions team. Like, I just think there's no slowing down in the man. There was, as with Wales, I think there was a lot of good individual performances. It didn't really click as it should have as a team unit. We've given them a lot to work on now. Like, they do kind of have a clear path of what they have to do to improve. We give them a little bit of confidence, a little bit of area to move on from. But I think unless Finn Russell is still hungover from the scatter of pints he had on Saturday night, I think it could be a close one. Even the last one down in Parky Scarlets was, I think, 2 or 3 points in it when Scotland won. But I do think it'll be a Scotland victory in Murrayfield.
Yeah, Sam, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very close, but I think Scotland are going to be riding high now after the way they played, and would look to continue that. You know, so barring any injuries or anything, I think the Scotland are definitely up with a good chance to win it. I think Wales are going to be better than they were against us. I think that they were only the way they were against us because of circumstance. I think that they're going to improve. So that could be a very, very tight game, but I'll give it to Scotland.
Ireland, France on Sunday in Dublin. Westie, what's your outtake or your outlook?
It's tough to call right now because I think it's going to be quite a different looking Ireland team, because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen with Johnny Sexton. You don't know what's going to happen with James Ryan just yet. You know, the whole Robbie Henshaw thing, someone pointed out to me during the week. I mean, he was hunched over holding his ribs before he went off for that HIA. So there could be something else there. I think he was possibly pulled off to rest him for a little bit. We have a decision now to make in the back row because Peter O'Mahony is more than likely not going to be there. Whereas I don't think you're going to see many changes in the French team. And, you know, if they play anything like they played against Italy, like, we won't stand up to that. We won't be quite as bad against it. But yeah, it's hard to see us taking the win right now before we even know who's available to play.
Sam?
No, I'm going to say, I'm confident. I think that French team are unbelievable, but I think Ireland, there was something about the way we played. I know it wasn't the prettiest, but I think that, you know, we have 15 players on the pitch. I reckon that we can really put it up to them, slow it down a bit, barrel over, Bundyaki hat-trick, going to win it.
Oh, God. I don't know what you saw that made you so confident that we could beat France.
I'm not confident 100% based on just that.
You said confident. You said the word confident, didn't you, Westie?
I'm confident.
He said confident.
I'm confident of the win. I think that there's a good opportunity for us, and I think that if Ireland beat France at the weekend, it'll be probably the most exciting tournament I could remember, just with the opportunity for everyone to be beating everyone if Ireland beat France. So for the sake of the tournament, I'm confident. I'm backing us to
for the sake of the tournament.
Yeah, I'm backing us to go out for France to death, and like Homer when he's boxing, just take all the pummels for a while, and then just push him over at the end.
Yeah, I
don't think Dupont gets tired, man. I think.
Yeah.
They change his batteries at half time, and he just keeps on going.
Yeah, they're energizer batteries as well. You know, I'm not confident at all, Sam. I don't know where. I don't share this confidence that you have, but
I'm an eternal optimist, man.
You are, and it's sometimes it's delusional, and I think that could be today. But I think France are way too good. I don't see us threatening them, and I see them threatening us a lot. But look, it might not be a hammering, but I think.
What do you think about the opportunity for that? Say, like, how good our scrum looked, and if there's 8 of them on the pitch, you know, that could be really give us a good platform. I thought Murray was all right, and I thought.
But a platform to do, like, what have you seen that you're like, oh, we can cut them apart? platform for a good box kick. Like, what have you seen that there's nothing I've seen that I'm like, oh, that would be, if we get a good platform here, we can do a nice,
I thought
kind
we
of
looked
loop.
even before the red card. We looked to go a little bit wider than we have done in the last few years. I thought Henshaw and Ringrose both looked good. I thought Larmer looked good when he came on, and that's something that it pains me to say. I'll admit that I'm not his biggest fan, but I thought he looked good when he came on. I thought Keenan was very good, looked dangerous, had a good chance going through as well. I think that there's
we looked good and the players look good, but this is France. This is not Wales. This is a different caliber of fish. And that's why I just I can't see it. Look, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just can't see at the moment that we can beat them.
No, they're very, very good, and obviously they're going to be the hardest test of the tournament, unless England get really salty about what happened last weekend and come back with a vengeance. But no, they're a great team, but I think that I'm just an optimist, and I think that with that scrum, if the scrum functions, the players we have, I was impressed with all of the players really that came off the bench. I would personally take out Earls, change that up maybe. I don't think he had the best of games. I don't think
Billy Burns, because he should never wear an Irish jersey again, according to Twitter. So, that's a loss. I think the fairness Danny Farrell, he's come out and defended both Burns and O'Mahony, which was brilliant. In fairness to him, he came out straight away and he said that wasn't the reason we lost. So that was brilliant coaching by him, I thought, in that sense, to defend the boys straight away. But yeah, Sam, I don't know. I would disagree. But look, we'll find out next week, which is the joyous part of it all. One of us will be smug and one of us won't be. But this is the joys about betting against Ireland, though, because if they lose, you look like you're smart, and then if they win, you're like, oh, great, Ireland won. It's a win-win. Look at it that way.
I understand what Sam's saying. I don't think it's not going to be a throttling, but I just think France, they're in form. They've got a really exciting squad. We have a lot to prove, so the grit and determination could do it for us, but I think it does depend heavily on who's available. If we have to make 5 or 6 changes, then it could be tough.
Yeah, that's true. If we do lose a couple of boys, it's gonna be a very uphill battle. But
if Sexton is down with a HIA and Carty or Hanrahan or Madigan or Healy get called in, it'll just be the funniest thing ever. Even if it just means that, even if Leinster we don't have any more out halves, you can't take them, the media will go mental. Oh, it'll be the best.
We'll leave it there, boys. We'll chat next week, obviously, after the games. Hopefully, some good results. But I'm sure, like every weekend in the Six Nations, plenty to talk about. So, boys, appreciate it as always, and we'll chat to you next week.
Cheers, lads.
Bye.